And Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited the Vatican today to meet with Pope Leo after President Trump's continued criticism of the head of the Catholic Church. U.S. officials say the two discussed the war in the Middle East and, quote, topics of mutual interest in the Western Hemisphere. So for more, let's bring in our reporter panel. White House reporter for Politico, Sophia Cai, is here, along with congressional reporter for Semafor, Nicholas Wu. Guys, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. I want to talk about Rubio this week. He is at the Vatican today, as we saw, but Sophia, earlier this week, he was at the White House, at the podium in the press briefing room. I know you were there. Tell us a little bit about what you made of that performance and what it might tell us.
That was kind of his moment, although he didn't ask for it. We know it was an impromptu thing. The White House sort of called him up and said, can you do this? And he showed up for about 50 minutes. He engaged with us on some important issues around the war, around China, around Venezuela and Cuba. But he also kept it light. He made several jokes with reporters, made some hip-hop references, and he was generally pretty well received. I should say that this was the moment that really made it more okay for people to start talking about him as a 2028 contender. Just last month, we had some reporting that some very senior White House officials started to see Rubio as a serious 2028 contender, and it's different than last year, where the MAGA base, didn't always take Rubio as seriously, saw him as the establishment, and the only serious presidential Trump successor would be J.D. Vance. I think now it's very different. Of course, it's up to Trump who he wants to endorse, if he endorses anyone. But Rubio has had quite a run this week.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is certainly the wild card here, but it was interesting to see Rubio put out clips of that performance and kind of, not monetize it, but get it out there in the public. I mean, Nicholas, we were talking also earlier this week about J.D. Vance, who is the current vice president. He's out in Iowa. I mean, nobody goes to Iowa by mistake. We all know that, campaigning for other candidates there. But what do you make of this kind of emergence that we're seeing of these two administration officials potentially vying to kind of take the Trump mantle?
We're seeing the very early stages of the shadow 2028 primary. Very, very subtle. J.D. Vance was in Iowa to campaign with a Purple District Congressman, Zach Nunn, who faces a very tight race, and to meet voters there. People who also conveniently could vote for him in a couple years. Now, at the same time, the struggle for people like Vance and Rubio is to try to make their own profile, while at the same time not overshadowing the president himself.
Yeah, that's always the biggest challenge here. Speaking of other people in the administration, Howard Lutnik was on the Hill this week to give a deposition to the House Oversight Committee. I know you've been covering this a lot. I mean, this was the highest profile member of the administration that we've seen come before the committee.
This apparently was the very first sitting cabinet secretary to go for a deposition or an interview with any congressional committee in U.S. history. And so, it's not clear exactly how far the ball was advanced. But this interview, Lutnik said that he's not been accused of doing anything wrong. He said that he didn't see anything untoward with Jeffrey Epstein, and he laid out a lot of the timeline. But Democrats hinted that if they take back the gavels next year, they will further investigate this.
Yeah, something we could see more of as this goes on. Sophia, I want to talk a little bit about some new reporting today that Kamala Harris, the former Democratic nominee, says that she wants the DNC to release their autopsy of her own loss. I mean, it's really stunning to me that they haven't done it. What's going on there? You see these calls among members of the base asking for this autopsy to come out. There's been a resistance to releasing it. What should we make of it?
I think people want closure. For months after the 2024 election, there was a sense of just being in a daze. And we kind of heard that from Democratic operatives across the country. Now, as the Democratic Party is trying to figure out what's next and what does the next 2 years, the next 6 years look like for them, there's this sense of let's figure out what went wrong. And for Republicans, there is a lot that has been learned from previous autopsies, right? This notion in the 2000s that the Republican Party needed to become more diverse, needed to have multicultural voters and to be a bigger tent umbrella. And there were serious improvements that came as a result of that. I think Kamala Harris obviously is considering another run. And I think she'll have to answer the questions of what went wrong if she's going to run for anything. And so that is why she is asking for that to come. And, we don't know what's in it. We don't know if it's been finished. We don't know very much about this alleged autopsy at all.
More questions about not releasing it than actually just moving ahead. Well, a lot of 2028 on the horizon. We got to get through the midterms first, but glad to have you both covering this for us. Sophia, Nicholas, thank you very much for your time.